Welcome back, college football fans, to the Touchdown Black and Gold Vlog, the channel created by the college football fan for the college football fan, the channel where we examine, discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football across the entire college football landscape. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks. It's great to be back with you here on the channel. I've had a little bit of a layoff, and I'd like to say happy post-Super Bowl to you all. That's right. Here it is, Wednesday afternoon after the Super Bowl, and congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles, and especially to young Cooper DeJean, the rookie cornerback for the Eagles from the University of Iowa, representing on the biggest of all stages. On his birthday, not only does he become a Super Bowl champion, but also records his first career NFL INT, and then he took that INT to the house for a pick six. So congratulations to Cooper DeJean, Iowa Nation, Black and Gold fans worldwide. Definitely very, very proud of you, Cooper, and how you showed up and showed out for us Hawkeye fans. So what does that mean? That means that football is now completely done for a while. Here we are in the dead of winter. The 2024 college football season has now come and gone. It is a thing of the past, in the rearview mirror. So what I'm going to do today, starting off, this is the first of my many look back episodes, a chance for me to reflect and look back on everything that was the 2024 college football season. But before I say more, thank you much to all of you who have continued to contribute to the channel. Your support is so much appreciated. It has been excellent for all of you who tuned in to my last episode. My reaction and recap to the national championship game. It was an absolute success thanks to your support. I appreciate all of you who viewed, who liked, who commented, and subscribed, because without you, none of this would be possible. It is an absolute pleasure for me, your common average Joe, the common college football fan, to be here with you, sharing my love and passion for all things college football with you, because without you, once again, none of this would be possible. So thank you. Let's continue to keep momentum on the side of the channel. So please like, share, comment. I always encourage, welcome, and ask for your participation. So please get involved, comment below in the comment section to anything that I present or say during this upcoming episode, and I promise I will get back to each and every one of you much sooner than later via those comments. So what I've got on tap for you today is my top 5 surprise teams of the 2024 college football season. I mean, we had so many great stories that presented themselves during the previous season. So I thought I would go ahead and share with you my top 5 surprise teams based on my opinion and some facts that I will be presenting during this episode. So please get involved, comment below, like, share, subscribe, click that notification button so when you can get the notification when my upcoming episodes will be posted for your viewing and listening pleasure. All right, so before I go ahead and share my top 5 with you, I want to also give you my honorable mentions, my first and second teams out, who I did want to give a little props to, but also they just missed the official cut. But I want to go ahead and give you my 2 honorable mentions. So my second team out for my top 5 surprise teams of last season, I'm going to start off in the ACC with the SMU Mustangs. Now, preseason, and also with all of these 7 teams, I'm also going to share with you what preseason their over-under win totals were via BetMGM. SMU, they were over-under, they were picked at 8.5 wins. So when it comes down to the 7 teams on this list, they actually had the highest ceiling. They were projected to win the most games of any of the other teams I'll be sharing with you. So their over-under was set at 8.5. When it was all said and done, SMU went 11-3 overall. They were 8-0, perfect within ACC conference play, which is even more surprising and more of an accomplishment because this was their inaugural season as a member of the ACC conference. And because of that record, it resulted in a college football playoff appearance as an at-large. 2 of their 3 losses came at the end of the year in back-to-back games, one against Clemson in the ACC title game, and the second was in the first round of the college football playoff at Penn State. So overall, a great season for SMU. I don't want to say a complete surprise, but still, with their success as a first-year member of the ACC and making the college football playoff, I have to mention them in this episode. So my first team out, and this is where it starts to get really, really difficult. I mean, I could have had all 7 of these teams in such different order, but I'll share with you why I put them where they were. So please get involved. Let me know what you think. Do you think this team was too high, too low? Maybe they shouldn't have been on the list at all. Maybe who should have been mentioned? Please let me know below in the comments. So my first team out, I have the Vanderbilt Commodores out of the SEC. Preseason, Vanderbilt's over-under was set at 2.5 games. Overall, Vanderbilt went 7-6, which is a winning season. They returned to postseason play for the first time, I believe, since 2018. On the season, they had some big wins. I mean, they opened up the season week 1 against Virginia Tech in Music City, which the Hokies were considered by many to be a legit threat to win, kind of a dark horse to win the ACC conference title. They also had big SEC road wins at Kentucky and down on the plains at Auburn, 2 of the most difficult places in the SEC to play football as a visitor, but none bigger was their victory against number 1 Alabama as a 20.5-point underdog at home in front of the home crowd in Music City. And that was the week following Alabama's victory against Georgia. So what a great accomplishment for Vanderbilt to knock off a number 1 team. All right. And they had a couple losses by a mere possession. They lost by 3 points against Missouri in overtime and at home against Texas, who made the college football playoff as well. That's worth mentioning for Vanderbilt. But they did have one bad loss. I mean, early in the non-conference, they also lost at Georgia State, the Panthers, I believe, of the Sun Belt Conference. But they did cap off their season with a bowl victory against a very solid Georgia Tech squad, the same G-Tech team that defeated Miami late in the season, ultimately keeping them out of the college football playoff, and a Georgia Tech team that lost at Georgia, I believe, in 8 overtimes the last week of the season in that rivalry game. So Vanderbilt, great season. I'm sorry you just couldn't break officially the top 5. You're my first team out, but great season for the Commodores. And I expect big things from Diego Pavia and those boys since he is back for one more season down there in Nashville. All right, so now let's move on to my official list, my top 5 teams, my top 5 surprise teams from the 2024 season. Let's go ahead and start with number 5. And this is going to be a little bit of a surprise. This team, a lot of people know what they accomplished, but they don't really understand it. You really have to look a little bit deep and dive under the surface to see exactly what this season was and what they accomplished. I'm going to go representing at number 5 from the Mountain West. Yes, not Boise State, but the UNLV Running Rebels. That's right. Coach Barry Odom had a great season there in Sin City. He now has moved on to take it over as the head coach at Purdue. So welcome to the Big Ten, Barry Odom. Preseason, UNLV was picked. Their over-under win total was 7.5. Overall, the Runnin' Rebs went 11-3. That did include an appearance in the Mountain West Championship game where they did lose 21-7 against Boise State. And of their 3 losses, 2 of those 3 came against Boise State, who did go on, obviously, represented the Group of 5 in the college football playoff. But both of those losses were very, very respectable losses. I believe one was 21-7, as mentioned, and the other, I think, was 24-21, something like that. So, great season for UNLV, but this is why they deserve to be on this list above SMU and Vanderbilt, is the teams that they defeated. And they defeated not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 group of 4 Power 4 opponents. In the non-conference, they defeated Big 12 Houston and Big 12 Kansas, both on the road during the season late. Now, even though they aren't officially a member of a Power 4 conference, they did defeat Oregon State as well. And then in the bowl game, capped it off with a big bowl victory against Cal. So right there, 4 Power 4 conference teams they defeated, and their third loss was in overtime at home against a very, very good Syracuse team. All right, so overall, great season for UNLV, the Runnin' Rebels, out of the Mountain West Conference at number 5. All right, number 4, moving on, and this is going to be a little difficult for me, but hey, I was wrong. I admit that. I mean, my wife has done her work very well. I have no pride issues left, and they proved me wrong. At number 4 from the Big 12, I got to give props and credit where credit is due to the Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Deion Sanders and his boys. Preseason, they were pegged at 5.5 victories by BetMGM. Overall, they went 9-4 on the year, 7-2 during the regular season in Big 12 conference play, which is also impressive. Just like SMU on this list, this was their inaugural season as a member. Well, maybe not inaugural. They were in the Big 12 previously, but their inaugural season back as a member of a Big 12 conference team. And the thing that I love about this team, even though I predicted they would not get to 6 wins and get to the postseason, so they did prove me wrong, but they just missed out on a Big 12 championship appearance. But they did produce the Heisman Trophy winner and kind of Swiss Army knife utility man, Travis Hunter, talented wide receiver and defensive back. And also, they produced this season probably 2 of the top 5 picks in the upcoming NFL draft here in the spring. Shedeur Sanders, Coach Deion Sanders' son, who's a stud quarterback, is projected by many to not only be the first quarterback taken, but potentially the number 1 overall draft pick. And Travis Hunter will hear his name called very shortly after that. So great season for Colorado, for Coach Prime and his boys there in Boulder. And also, too, the one thing that, it would have been a little bit better, but they did get rolled in the bowl game against BYU, which, yes, BYU is a fellow Big 12 conference member, but it was not considered a conference game. But it just was basically just, hey, they were there to make a guest appearance, and BYU got it done big against the Buffaloes in that bowl game. So congratulations, number 4, Colorado. You surprised many. You definitely surprised yours truly. Moving on, my number 3 team, all right? And once again, this was very difficult for me to kind of decide where these teams fell. So please comment below, get involved, let me know if you agree or disagree and why with my list. And please like, share, subscribe. Can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for all you do. Number 3 from the SEC, I had to go with the Florida Gators, guys. I mean, preseason, Florida was pegged right at 5 wins was their over-under. We all knew the daunting task that Florida was going to be facing this year. Coming off a losing season in the 2023 season, they went 5-7. There was a lot of heat on Coach Billy Napier's seat, the head coach down there in Gainesville. And if you remember, especially after that week 1 blowout at home in the Swamp against Miami, those calls for his job only got louder and louder. But overall, Florida went 8-5 on the year. And what makes this even more impressive, if you didn't know the schedule that was in front of them, that daunting task that I just referred to, they faced 6 ranked teams that were ranked prior to week 1, 6 that were ranked. And really, it ended up being 7 ranked teams if you factor in Texas A&M eventually became ranked themselves. So they played 7 ranked teams, and 3 of those 7 ranked teams ended up being college football playoff participants in Texas, Georgia, and they ended up playing Tennessee as well. So for them to have a winning record, faced against all of the adversity and the unknowns going into the season, uber impressive. All right. Down the stretch, they closed their season out very well, recording wins against LSU, who was ranked Ole Miss down in the Swamp. And that loss by Ole Miss basically is what kept them out of the college football playoff, or really legitimately in that conversation. And then they went on the road and avenged last year's loss against their in-state rival, the Florida State Seminoles, up there in Tallahassee. So what a great season for Billy Napier. He has been rewarded. He is coming back. I myself did not see this surprise coming. I actually did predict during my Crystal Ball episode that Billy Napier would be fired either during or shortly after the conclusion of the 2024 season. So congratulations, Florida. What a great surprise team you were in 2024. So now we get to the top 2. Coming in number 2 on my list of surprise teams of the 2024 season, it's really 2 teams that are one, because without one, you can't have the other. I'm talking about the service academies, Army and Navy. What a great season our servicemen and women experienced there at those 2 academies. Both Army and Navy, coming into the season, they were pegged both at 5.5 victories over and under. So I'm going to break down each of these teams separately. I'm going to start off with the Army Black Knights. Army went 12-2 overall. They went a perfect 9-0 in the American Athletic Conference, which is impressive right there along with Colorado and SMU, who I listed already. This was their inaugural season as a member of a conference. So they ran the table in conference, and then they eventually defeated Tulane in the AAC Conference Championship game, hoisting the trophy there in front of the recruits there at Michie Stadium up there in West Point, New York. So what a great season it was for Army. I mean, it's really the stuff of miracles. It's like Hollywood scripted, what we saw take place at Army and Navy. One of their 2 losses was against Notre Dame, national championship runner-up. So, hey, no shame in that. And they did cap off their great season with a victory against Louisiana Tech in the bowl game in the state of Louisiana down there in Shreveport. So what a great season. And their other loss was to their arch rival, but their brother-in-arms, the Navy Midshipmen, the other academy I'm going to discuss right now. So great season for Army. Now, not to be outdone, the Navy Midshipmen. I think overall, when you look at this, they had a slight better season than their Army brethren, even though they had a worse record, but they did defeat them straight up. Navy being pegged at 5.5 victories preseason, just like Army. They went 10-3 overall. And when it comes down to the service academies, Army, Navy, and Air Force, it always starts with who is going to hoist their version of the national championship trophy. That is the Commander-in-Chief trophy that was captured this season by Navy with their victory straight up against both Air Force and Army, as I already mentioned. So good wins there for Navy. A very, very nice victory during the regular season against Memphis, a Memphis team that did knock off Florida State in Tallahassee, and they did knock off Tulane, I believe, late in the season as well. One of their 3 losses came against Notre Dame, just like Army, and I got to mention it again, that Notre Dame team was the national championship runner-up, all right? So no harm, no foul with that loss. But I give them the edge over Army, not just because they beat them head up, straight up, face to face, but they capped it off with a huge, big-time postseason victory against Blue Blood, the Oklahoma Sooners of the SEC. I mean, one of the best victories we saw all year. I get it. Oklahoma fans right now are saying, hey, our starting quarterback didn't play. He transferred out, blah, 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 blah. I get that. That is true. That is a fact. But still, for an Oklahoma team with all the bells and whistles they have to lose against the Navy, the Naval Academy, that says it right there. Coach Venables down there in Norman absolutely enters the 2025 season on the hottest of all seats, and for good reason. He just does. All right. So Army and Navy, congratulations on great seasons. You're number 2 on my list of the top 5 surprise teams of the 2024 season. And on most years, I mean, Army and Navy would hands down be a slam dunk to be number 1 on this list. But the number 1 surprise team, I mean, I think anyone and everyone would primarily and probably agree with this. So topping my list for the 2024's top 5 biggest surprise teams had to go to the Indiana Hoosiers of the Big Ten. That's right, not Indiana basketball, mind you, but Indiana Hoosier football. Preseason, Indiana was pegged at 5.5 victories via BetMGM. And during my Crystal Ball episode, which I do every year preseason, I did tell you bettors out there to go ahead and put your money down and take the over on Indiana. I did believe they would be much better than 5.5 victories, especially with Coach Curt Cignetti and the boys he brought with him from James Madison. So I wasn't surprised they were going to have a good season. I did think they would get to postseason play, but I never saw this coming. All right. So overall, Indiana went 11-2 on the season. That resulted in the program's first ever college football playoff appearance as a squad. Now, the outlier for Indiana, and this is what a lot of opponents of them would say, is really the outlier for them was their schedule, okay? They did have no plays against Oregon, Penn State, Illinois, and Iowa in the Big Ten. They did play Ohio State, which resulted in one of their 2 losses this season. That was up there in the horseshoe. But the reason why they still had to be number 1, because A, they went 11-2, the college football playoff appearance, but if you don't happen to know your history, this team, this program, Indiana has the most losses of any college football team in the history of our sport. So that's why they absolutely had to top this list, all right? Because it's very, very difficult to change the course of history. And they did that with one solid Cinderella-like season. Maybe a season that will never be forgotten in Bloomington, Indiana. And also their other loss, I already mentioned, they lost to Ohio State. and they lost it in the first round of the college football playoff against Notre Dame. I believe it was 27-17. And in case you had forgotten, those were the two teams who met up in the national championship game. All right. So once again, another feather in the cap of Indiana being the number one biggest surprise team of 2024. All right. So what a great season it was. I mean, filled with so many surprises. Let me know what you think about my list. Comment below. Do you agree, disagree? Who should have been moved up? Who should have been moved down? This team should have been on your list. This team removed. I can't wait to hear from you. So to recap, my full list of the 2024's biggest surprise teams, my honorable mentions were SMU. My first team out was Vanderbilt. Number 5 were the UNLV Running Rebels. Number 4, the Colorado Buffaloes. Number 3, the Florida Gators. Number 2 was shared by the service academies, Army and Navy. Number 1, the Indiana Hoosiers. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Be looking for me next week. If you liked this episode, then trust me, you will absolutely dig and like the exact opposite, which will be posted on Monday morning. I will be sharing with you my top 5 biggest disappointments of 2024. These 5 plus 2 teams that basically really laid an absolute egg during the 2024 season. And maybe 1 or 2 of those might be making an appearance on that list on Monday. Oklahoma. Anyway, Florida State. Whew, bless me. All right, so go ahead, click that subscribe button to get a notification when Monday's episode will be posted. Once again, thank you for all that you have done and will continue to do for the channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment below. I can't wait to hear from you. Get those comments flowing. The dance floor is yours. Light it up, and I can't wait to get back to each and every one of you. So until next week, enjoy the rest of your work week, your school week. Enjoy the upcoming weekend. Be safe, be responsible. Peace, prosperity, and thank you again for joining me here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. And as always, go Hawks. See you then.